Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Beyond Second Cognition. I'm Beall. The topic of this discussion is the internal push versus the external panic mode. I know a lot of you are going through an internal feeling of pressure at this point in time, and much of that is PSOYCA-driven desires to get yourself up to speed, to help yourself clear your plate of all the extraneous nonsense that is being peddled with a sense of panic from the external first cognition world. Every place you look on YouTube or even mainstream news, everything's a fucking crisis. Everything's going to happen the next day or so. Got to have gun control right now. Nibiru's going to be back day after tomorrow. You better get your shit right. Have to see this now, have to act now, have to be panicked. Oh, you better get your shit together. God's coming back. And if you'll notice this in these video titles that these people are peddling through the fear porn market, it's very hard to distinguish between what your internal push is and how much of it is being externally influenced. There is a common sense, level-headed manner in which you approach your growth process. Different people are feeling this inner sense of urgency more amplified than others. And it's going to vary from person to person. But what you cannot do is allow this external hype, this gloom and doom, you better get right with God and you better become purified before Nibiru comes back, or whatever the fuck they're peddling. If you're allowing that stuff to amp you up and making you run blindly in fear, then they're winning the game. They're controlling your consciousness, and you're not really listening to your own internal push as much through detachment, and you are allowing the external first cog world to govern your emotions. There's a difference between the internal PSOYCA push and the external emotional-driven panic mongering. There is nothing about PSOYCA advancement or the internal push that will stir up your emotions, not in the same manner that the external hype does. You have to realize that everything they do is designed to trigger emotional responses. If they can make you fearful, then they win. If they can make you jump into a form of panic over what's coming, then they win. I'll give you an example. They've been touting these FEMA camps and martial law for 30 fucking years. Guess what, folks? It hasn't happened. But I'm going to give you something to think about in reference to martial law. First off, a government generally can't declare martial law unless there is an emergency enough warranted to declare martial law. So let me give you a scenario to ponder. If the government decides to declare martial law, it's because something is happening in the public to create an emergency that necessitates declaring martial law. So let's just use an example, and I'm not saying this is going to happen. This is not a forecast or a prognostication, okay? This is just a what-if example. Let's take, for example, the financial system collapses and money everywhere becomes worthless. Now, we're in a system that is totally caught by money. And if money collapses, then there's going to be a domino effect. Because when people don't have money that's worth anything, they're going to quit going to work. And when they quit going to work, you're going to see a cultural collapse, at least in the interim period, until something can get put in place to replace money and get people back to work. Let's use natural disasters as an example. You look at that hurricane that hit down in Puerto Rico. That was a few months ago. Then people still don't have their shit back together. Now, had some of these people done some common sense preparations with food and water, they could have lived without electricity. But electricity also has a watershed effect. When the electricity goes out, if you're on public water and you rely on those water pumps based on electricity, then the water's going to quit pumping. So all these people are sitting there without food, without water, begging the government to do something, whereas if they had did some common sense preparation, their situation wouldn't have been so dire, particularly if they had done it on a large scale. You know, everybody minding their own business, doing their own preparations. The circumstance wouldn't have been near as drastic as what it was. But in such situations, people panic. And they run to the stores and they strip the shelves, and it creates food riots. And if you were to take a situation with a monetary collapse, in the major cities, people would be all over the streets rioting and killing each other for a loaf of bread. And we've discussed this in some of our very early videos. Much of this being caught in panics could be resolved with some common sense preparations. But no, we don't want to do that. We want to figure that the grocery store is always going to be there and the trucks are always going to deliver. But the fact of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, there's no more than 3 days worth of stock on all the grocery store shelves in every city in the country. And when you get a panic rush for a snowstorm or a hurricane or something like that, that 3 days collapses to hours. So, people panic and they do stupid shit. And if it gets out of hand, then the government is liable to have to declare martial law because people are being fucking stupid. They're being violent and irrational because not a one of them took a single solitary step to do some common sense preparation beforehand. So they get blindsided because they're lazy and ignorant and refuse to listen and refuse to do anything to remedy a potential bad situation like disastrous weather or a financial collapse or whatever else. But they want to keep pumping up all of this hype, and people keep buying it. Everything's urgent. Everything's going to happen instantaneously. You better get right with God. And you see this Christian shit hyped all over the goddamn internet. And I mean, it's as bad as the transhumanism shit and the FEMA camp shit and all this other panic they're sowing. What they're doing is they're mentally preparing you to be a panic-oriented robot. And this is completely different than the internal push using detachment to develop yourself and grow yourself without this type of external nonsense to stir up your emotions. We have been trying to teach people about detachment, which means view what's going on around you, use your common sense, do the preparations you feel are necessary, and then when the emergency hits, you're better off. You're not out there caught up in food riots and stupid shit like that. And if they do declare martial law, you'll be able to stay in your home and not be out there and get hurt. But they're pumping the alien spaceship stuff and then the Nibiru stuff and the God stuff and rapture shit. I mean, it's fucking coming at you left and right. Quit paying attention to it, folks. Quit buying it. It's only there to stir up your emotions and create confusion and leave you uncertain and feeling like there's not a goddamn thing you can do about it. And it's bullshit. Get yourself mentally prepared, because where the biggest problem is going to be in any circumstance of these natures is going to be in the psychological lack of preparation. If you're going to be a psychological pushover because you buy into the panic, then you're going right where they want you to go. So stop being a fucking victim. Stop letting them manipulate your consciousness in this form. Develop some detachment, develop some wisdom, and grow beyond the goddamn sensationalist hype. I don't know how else to put this to you, but quit feeding the fucking beast. We've told you in the earlier videos, if you want to see this system go down and change it for something better, you've got to quit contributing your energies, meaning your emotional energies, into the panic-mongering bullshit. So long as you keep buying that stuff, you're keeping that sadistic, tyrannical system alive. Quit feeding it. Quit feeding it in all its forms and varieties. Do what you have to do to get through your daily life. Be smart, be wise, use common sense, and don't buy the bullshit. I just wanted to put this out here because the escalation level of the sensationalist fear-mongering hype is really ratcheting up, and too many of you folks are still falling for this shit because you've been conditioned to fall for it. You've been looking for answers for so long, and you think that the answers are in this bullshit. Well, we're providing a different, more pragmatic answer. It's called detachment and pragmatism. Pay attention to your internal push to grow outside of this stuff. Move beyond external manipulation. Follow your own inner guidance and pay attention to what that tells you, but don't fall prey to the external emotional manipulation that is presented through the media and these YouTube videos and all this panic mongering. Because if you buy into it, you're just setting yourself up to be panicked. I just thought I'd put this out there and inform folks and give you some wisdom here and ponder and think about it and settle the fuck down from all the goddamn panic mongering. Quit renting it space in your head. Quit worrying about what ifs, might be's, and could be's. They don't manifest. They've been playing that game for thousands of years. So don't play it anymore. Don't feed the beast. For those of you doing the work, stay the course. Don't give up on yourselves.